Over the past few days, notable journalists and other figures in mainstream media have acknowledged that the alleged chemical weapons attack that occurred last April in the Damascus suburb of Douma, Syria, was likely staged by activist groups such as the White Helmets, or the Heroes. Their comments and investigations have largely vindicated the many journalists and academics who cast aspersions on the precipitous Western media campaign to blame the alleged attack on the Syrian government. Many of the dissenting voices were derided as conspiracy theorists or ignored entirely by mainstream sources. Yet now that these revelations are being voiced by acceptable figures to the mainstream media, those who have built their careers on promoting the White Helmets and regime change in Syria are working to discredit these new dissenting voices. Among those on the counterattack are individuals connected to the oligarch-funded humanitarian regime change network that was the subject of a recent Mint Press expose. That's the one that's on the site that I've just mentioned. The alleged Douma attack, notably used as the justification for a military attack launched against Syria by the US, the UK and France, returned to the news cycle earlier this month following a report from James Harkin, a journalist who has written for The Guardian, Harper's and the Financial Times, and is currently director of the Centre for Investigative Journalism. Harkin's report, which was published in The Intercept, cast doubt on the prevailing mainstream narrative surrounding events that occurred in Douma last April. Harkin, in visiting Douma and the surrounding area, confirmed past reporting by other independent journalists that no sarin gas had been used, which also were confirmed by the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons interim report, and claimed that the scenes filmed at the medical point in Douma, which were widely circulated by the mainstream media as evidence that a chemical and weapons attack had occurred, had likely been staged. Harkin lamented the staging of the hospital scenes as a casualty of Syria's propaganda war. And, you know, when you saw those pictures of this staged attack, it was so blatantly obvious it was a staged attack. It wasn't even a B movie. It was a home movie. But it was presented by the media and as being real. And what will happen now? This has come out, and you know, creditable sources have confirmed what the alternative media was saying all along. Nothing will change, because when the next staged hoax comes along, the same people will support it. It is absolutely pathetic. The mainstream media is one of the greatest threats to human freedom, without any question, because it allows the liars in authority to get away with it. Talking of staged attacks and problem reaction solutions, as I call them, here's another one. Mercenary team, ? 5 US citizens among heavily armed group arrested amid Haiti protests. A group of 7 foreigners and 1 local were apprehended by Haitian authorities amid violent unrest in the nation. The subjects, who have allegedly military backgrounds, were equipped with an arsenal of guns and even drones. The group was apprehended in the Haitian capital of Port-au-Prince, shortly after leaving the Bank of Haiti. Local newspaper Le Nouvelliste reported. The subjects, traveling in 2 vehicles without license plates, were well equipped with military-grade weapons, body armor, and even drones. They had several sets of plates with them, but it was unclear if they were genuine or fake. The individuals initially refused to leave their vehicles, reportedly claiming they had been working for the Haitian government. Pictures of the seized equipment, released by the newspaper, show high-grade weaponry plastered with scopes, bipods and other fancy tactical stuff, sidearms, loads of clips of ammunition, a map of Port-au-Prince, and satellite phones and assorted knives. Aside from that, a video purportedly showing the detained individuals vigorously covering their faces at a police station has circulated online. The newspaper also revealed the alleged identities of the subjects, naming them as Croker Kent Leland, Danilo Bajavic, Vlad Yankovic, Burton Tullen, Christopher Osman, Daniel Dustin, and Estera Michael. And again and again, this is happening where the Americans and Israel and the British, they put people into countries to cause unrest and agitation, to undermine the governments of those countries that they want to overthrow. That's what's now happening, of course, so obviously in Venezuela. And you kind of a little theme here at the moment of fakery, because it's all a psychological game. So therefore, fakery plays a major part, because you're faking things to manipulate the psychology of the population. And here's it's been a big story in America, but I remember every time when I get up in the morning, I always get up early, maybe 5 o'clock, something like that, 6 at the latest. And the first thing I do when I'm having a cup of tea is I watch the Tucker Carlson show on YouTube, which from the previous night, a few hours earlier, and it's fascinating, because what it does, it brings you up to speed with the major stories in America. And Tucker Carlson actually is the leading figure in terms of real journalism in the Western world, from what I can see. Because although, you might not agree with everything he says and everything he stands for, but he asks the right questions, and he doesn't take crap from people. He questions all parties for their behavior. He questions all these manipulated wars. He exposes the neocons, exposes the progressive fascistic left, which has hijacked and overwhelmed the genuine liberal left. And he picks up these stories very early, often, in terms of, well, is this really how it was? And he was right at the start doing that in relation to this claim by this actor, Jussie Smollett, who claimed that he was beaten up by white racist Trump supporters who beat him up, who said that this is MAGA country, make America great again. In other words, this is Trump country. Actually, it wasn't an area where the MAGA community, if you like, lived, which was kind of, a bit of a red flag to start with. And he claimed that they'd put a noose around his neck. And what then happened, I followed this every day from what happened, because it was very clear from the start, there's something not right here. And all the usual suspects, just CNNs and all these people, these mindless prostitutes, that's what they are. They just follow the script and don't deviate from it. They criticize the right people, they praise the right people, no matter what their behavior is. And Jussie Smollett became a hero of the black oppressed in the face of white supremacy. The fact that Smollett is very a wealthy actor, and he's anything but oppressed, it doesn't matter. And so this was a sign of where America's going. And now it turns out that he made it all up. He got a couple of black guys, Nigerians, I think, to make it look like he'd been beaten up. And then he reports it to the police, tells his fake story. But, it was always going to unravel, because old Jussie doesn't seem, like the brightest man ever to walk the earth, frankly. And he's been caught out. And he's now been charged with filing a false police report over the so-called alleged hate crime attack. And he's in big shtuck, and rightly so, because what he was doing was staging a fake hate crime, as they're called, creating even deeper divisions between groups in society, exactly what the cabal wants. And he lied about it. And what is interesting is Carlson had on this week, when he was covering the story on one day, on 2 days he had two people on who've written books about what are known as hate hoaxes now. And it was very interesting to see the scale of these hate hoaxes that are happening. And one estimated that 1 in every 2 so-called hate crimes are actually hoaxed. They never actually happened. Because if you want to create division in society, and you want to create the idea of hate to use as a political tool to change society, not least through censorship, then you need the perception that hate is growing. And therefore, the more hoaxes you can pull off, the better. And there was another interesting story that the day before, there was a guy on, a journalist, I think he was a journalist. Anyway, he'd written a book and done a lot of research about how these hate crime figures are completely manipulated. He points out, because all the time, hate crimes have risen. And he points out that the reason the figures of hate crime have risen is they're now including a list of agencies reporting their statistics that weren't reporting them before. So it had not actually gone up at all. It's just that you're counting more agencies. And there was one classic, and I was very impressed with Carlson, actually, because virtually no one will go down this road, but he's prepared to, up to a point, which in the environment that he works in is very impressive. And you'll know where I'm going with this. This writer of the book, he talked about figures of anti-Semitism attacks, which the Anti-Defamation League, they call them Anti-Defamation League because it's all Orwellian inversion. They just go around defaming people. The group, or the organization, it's not even a group, that was driving the attempt to have me banned from Australia, is called the Anti-Defamation Commission. It's all part of a global web. But anyway, this Anti-Defamation League, which is just a front for Israel and has connections into the mafia, was caught out doing surveillance work for the white apartheid regime in South Africa. They're really nice people. Anyway, it's said that the increase in anti-Semitic hate crime since Trump came to power in 2016, or actually early 2017, wasn't it? It has increased 60%. Whoa! But as this guy pointed out, the entire increase that's claimed was because of a man who I've included in a book, this story, including a man who threatened something like 2,000 Jewish locations, organizations, people, whatever. And so those threats to those 2,000 targets accounted for the entire alleged rise of 60% in anti-Semitic hate crimes since Trump came to power. It turned out that these 2,000 hate crimes were committed by a Jewish man. And he was arrested. He's now in jail. He was arrested in a joint operation between American police and Israeli police. Will the Anti-Defamation League say, oh, actually, it hasn't gone up at all because that increase I told you about, well, it's this bloke and he was Jewish? No, Of course not. Because they are fraudulent, fake, and corrupt people. And, I've just described Jussie Smollett. In synchronicity, amazing.
Every single event that we've done anywhere in the world, there's been certain groups that have contacted venues, made outrageous libelous claims about what David's going to speak about, and have, in many cases, got venues to cancel on us.
They tell the organisers that I'm going to go on the stage and I'm going to say a stream of racist things, none of which I have ever said, none of which am I ever going to say. What then happens, staggeringly, is that instead of coming to you and saying, well, these people have said you're going to say this, you're going to say that, what's going on? They pull the event. And we hear about the event we've been organising for months being cancelled. We hear about it in the media.
In Germany alone, for example, I've been in touch with over 70 venues, and we've still never managed to pull off a Germany show. And there's a venue that we had in Berlin, which to this day, nigh on well over a year, have never actually contacted me to tell me the event's been cancelled. I found out from a German newspaper when they published a story about it.
And my website is blocked in schools and universities and colleges. It's blocked in government departments and government agencies. And here's me, one person, who was supposed to be this great nutter, and the system is desperate to silence what I'm putting out and to stop as many people as possible ever hearing it. Why?